Ryan, can you hear us okay?
Yep, I can.
Okay.
6:30, and Danny, you've already noted the roll I saw. Chance back in the room, so we're good there. Item 3 is approval of the minutes from March 6th meeting. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second, take your pick on first and then the second. Any edits or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, minutes are approved. There's no appearance, no unfinished business. 6A is the discussion and consideration on the commercial DSM for 1315. Thor is here to walk us through that. I was like, last Dan, do you have anything to say to get us picked up?
Nope, other than staff is recommending support of what we're going to present here. Really no big issues for Public Works or the right of way.
Sure. All right, well, we're joined by Brian Arcan with Snyder, who's representing the applicant and prepared the CSM. Brian, do you want to just give a really quick overview of the proposal?
Sure. Do you need me to share my screen or anything, or no?
Everybody has the information in the packet.
Okay. Yeah, so we're really just doing a CSM for an existing lot. But the lot is from like the 1970s. I didn't know this beforehand, but it looks like from Doug's letter, it was from before COPS was actually built. So that property line, we did notice, goes to the center of the right of way, and then there's a 40-foot easement. So we're really just looking to clean that up, do a CSM over it that would dedicate the 40 feet as public right of way. And not much else to it besides that. The rest of the property lines will all stay the same. And that western property line will match where the end of that easement is.
Any questions that people have?
I can kind of go over the staff memo then.
Yeah.
So the proposal's for a new one lot CSM at 1350 Femrite Drive. The existing lot is 2 acres. Like Brian mentioned, it was originally created by CSM 1074, which was recorded in 1972 prior to the construction of Cops Ave north of Femrite. That lot identifies the western property boundary as what is now the center line of Cops Avenue, with a proposed right-of-way line. It's indicated on that CSM 40 feet into the lot. And then later, a 40-foot easement was recorded for roadway purposes for that area between the center line of what is now Cops and that proposed right-of-way line. So the new proposed CSM would likely release that existing easement and dedicate that that easement area as public right of way. So it's recommended that the release of the easement and the dedication of that right of way be acceptable to Dan and the city attorney as well. City ordinance requires that a CSM can be reviewed by Public Works Committee and Plan Commission prior to council. And a pre-hearing conference is scheduled for the Plan Commission on May 13th with a formal consideration to follow at the following meeting. And then formal city council consideration would follow any Plan Commission recommendation. The CSM process can be used for 4 or less lots, and only 4 lots can be created by CSM over a period of 5 years. This would be creating 1 lot, and the lot was only previously subdivided in 1972 as part of that previous CSM. It's originally part of Assessor's Plat 2 Blooming Grove. The parcel zoned community design district which does not specify a minimum lot size, frontage, or lot width at the building line. As proposed, the total lot area is about 7,600 square feet, 1.75 acres. And the frontage along Cops is 235 feet. And no proposed land division shall be approved unless the resulting lot adjoins a dedicated street at least 32 feet in width, located within a public right of way, at least 60 feet in width. This would an 80-foot right of way, and Cops appears to be about 50 feet in width, so it complies with city code there. The applicant seeking recommendation from Public Works Committee, and recommend that you discuss the proposed CSM. If you have any concerns with the plans that's submitted, especially as it relates to maintenance obligations with that dedication of the easement to public right of way. Yeah, that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So the right of way line, the new official remains consistent with the properties north and south of it?
Yes.
Way,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Any other questions that people have? If there are none, there'll need to be a motion for acceptance.
Move approval.
Second. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's next one.
Right,
Thanks, Brian. Sorry.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, we'll move on to item B, which is discussion and consideration of a bid award for the contract for the 2024 street resurfacing and water tower driveway improvement project.
Thank you. We went out for bids and opened them on April 11th. We had 3 contractors supplying bids, Wolf Paving and Excavating providing a low bid. We have worked with Wolf Paving on a number of projects over the past 13 years that I've been here. Reputable, good contractor. They bring our projects in either on budget or under budget. The bid received for this project was $289,062. We did join our mill and overlay street resurfacing program with the water tower driveway resurfacing. And I have the bid tab included in the packet here for review, and also a very simple plan sheet that shows the water tower driveway. Half of it will be asphalt, the top portion will be gravel. And we are identifying 2 parking pads. Really no disturbing of any driveway / street here, other than replacing some of the bed underneath the asphalt. The archaeology review was done. Obviously, there are mounds up at the top here. We're not impacting any of that. The driveway, the asphalt portion is going to be slightly wider. We're gonna have an asphalt curb to help direct flow towards the bottom. And it'll provide better winter runoff, and that's been a problem for us in the past. A few years ago, we started this review with hopes that we could find a back entryway to the tower, and we have been unsuccessful with that. So that's why we are moving forward with resurfacing this driveway and help provide better runoff for rains and snow melt. Down at the bottom, it's gonna be just slightly wider than what it is now, and that's to accommodate incoming and outgoing vehicles. The concern here is always been the slope of the driveway. It's at a 20+% slope, and we haven't been able to correct that just because of the nature of the property there. So in any case, we're redoing the driveway, and we do have remaining work at the top. We're putting a small generator at the water tower to run in the event of a power outage, so we can still track our tower heights. And then we're also putting fencing around both towers to help eliminate spray painting and vandalism. So that's pretty much it. The fencing and the generator are not part of the bid. The bid is strictly resurfacing city streets. The map of those locations is on the back, and the streets are listed in the bid tab. We have about $96,000 in balance in that street account. And we can add up to 15% on the bid. So we're considering doing Graham Avenue as well. And we still have enough space to meet our bid limits. I just want to maximize that money that we have there. With the remaining balance that we have in that street account, I'm going to be getting some crack filling done and some infrared patching. That's also not included in this. So seeking your recommended approval to city council.
Questions?
I just had a comment in case anybody wonders, on here, you'll notice that there are 3 trees, something that we discussed. First read the city council, there are 3 trees that will come out, in doing this work, but those are trees that are already on their way out, so we're not taking down.
Right. No trees are being eliminated
Right,
for this project.
right,
They're already dead.
There's,
Yeah.
they're impacted, I guess, previous to this work, so they're gonna be done.
A question for you, you mentioned the asphalt improvements with the berm are gonna improve runoff, what is it?
When we shape the asphalt portion of the driveway, so they're gonna lay it so it drains to the north, and obviously downhill. Cause right now, there's no crest to the driveway. And so when it melts down the driveway and it creates ice. So the asphalt will be shaped to drain to the north and then follow the asphalt curve that we're gonna put in place. We'll follow it down. And then at the bottom, there's an inlet down there to receive.
Possible to put like curb cuts in there to. So you have the runoff following that asphalt berm, so going all the way down to Nona Drive? Or is
There's an
there an
inlet.
opportunity to cascade to the north into the.
Yeah.
Section?
That asphalt curving probably starts within 50 to 60 feet of the bottom. So once you get 50, 60 feet going up the driveway, it sheds into the property.
Other questions? On this comment, maximize money, because I continue to hear from people about. You hear it all the time, right, like. Every road has an issue depending on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, depending on the severity of it and perception of people, but yeah, maximize the roads. Which kind of look like you're ready to say something.
Just was gonna offer approval. A motion for approval.
No, second.
There we go. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item is passed. We can go on to item 3, which is discussion and consideration of repealing and recreating chapters 381. Ordinance regarding the solid waste and recyclable collection. Yeah,
Thank you. Just as the resolution says, or the ordinance says, 2012 was the last time we did a complete revision of the code. We were inspected by the DNR early fall last year for the recycling portion of the program. And they recommended that we update our solid waste and recycling ordinance. The goal prior to their inspection was, that was the plan anyway, because we have a new contractor on board now and for the next 10 years. So with the limits and restrictions of their collection, we wrote that those specifics into the ordinance. And I'll get into that a little later. The recycling inspection, they're encouraging communities to use their template. So the recycling portion of this code is based on the state template 381-4. I reviewed more than 30 other communities our size, and every single community has this DNR template adopted, tweaked with your own local information. I provided a major points of note for you to look at, because I don't intend to go through every line of this code. I'm hoping you've reviewed it. I'm gonna go through this here sheet though. There's probably a handful, about a dozen here that I thought were the most important to cover. So I'll go through this, and please let me know if you have any questions either during or after. More than happy to explain anything in this code to you. So I guess to start out, the collection time in here still remains at 7 o'clock and 6:30 in the areas of the high school. And that is in the current code to accommodate the student parking. So we want to get the trash and recycle collected in those areas before the students arrive. So that remains. 381-3 D7, the anti-scavenging that's common in nearly every municipal code We didn't have that in the old code. It's unlawful unless authorized by the city to collect or remove recyclable materials that have been placed at the curb. And the reason being is because there's money value to that. And with the contract that we have with Pelletieri, that's now their product. So, and we have the anti-scavenging written into the code now. D8, paragraph D8, the contractor has the right to reject any solid waste if it contains recyclables or materials banned from Wisconsin landfills. That's again in every code, based on state. The biggest change in the ordinance is the next one, 381-3, paragraph E. Multiple family units of 5 to 8 units will no longer be part of the city's collection contract. The state template has 1 to 4 units, so single family homes and small multifamily unit complexes up to 4. This impacts 7 properties, 7 addresses in Monona, on Anthony Place and Gordon. And the goal here is through Public Works Committee and City Council, we would enforce this in January 1st, 2025, giving those property owners enough time to plan accordingly to take this on as a private contractor. Every code that I looked at, there's only a handful that do not go up to 4. So it's common to limit the ordinances up to 4 units. We were an outlier going up to 8, so it's written in here to drop it down to 4. Paragraph F, I have written in here, and this is new, collection of solid waste and recyclables throughout the city for private collection contracts cannot occur prior to 6:30 a.m. So we have the residential program managed by the city. This also covers business collection, school collection, restaurants, the big family units, anywhere in the border of Monona. It's gonna be 6:30. So if it happens before that, it'll be an ordinance violation. And the reason why we wrote this into the code is because over the years, we've had a number of complaints that have come in from residents bordering nonprofits and private business where the collection starts at like 5 a.m. Or even earlier, and we really couldn't do anything about it because our code didn't specify. So we're writing that into the code. So, section 381-4, which is the recycling section, it is mandatory in Wisconsin. And this section is based off the state template. 381-4-G is similar to above in paragraph E. So we have it on the solid waste side of things and on the recycle side of things. 5 to 8 units now has to secure a private contract. Paragraph L is essentially the requirements for all establishments to recycle according to the materials listed. And this is based on the state requirements. Every address is required to open containers for recycle collection. They're required to notify tenants of recycling requirements and provide education to their tenants to reduce and recycle. This was a sticking point with the DNR, and one that we'll have to monitor the multifamily units. We have to do our own inspections and record them. So something new for us and our staff to do as well. Paragraph N gets into that enforcement and inspection. Authorized staff will inspect solid waste and recycle containers throughout the city to ensure compliance. Per DNR inspection, staff is to keep a log of inspections throughout the year and record the results of that inspection. So between our code enforcement officer and me or the department staff, we'll select a few each quarter and just do spot checks. Later on this agenda, we get into the compliance plan, and that kind of goes hand in hand with this requirement. Section 381-7, paragraph A, non-disposable materials. List of items that are not collected in the curbside program or bulk items program The disposer shall seek out the proper way to dispose these items according to federal and state law. Section 381-8, A and B. These items cannot be collected in the curbside program. Authorized collection through the state approved, state approved locations only. That would be for household medical waste, medicines, and medication disposal. And Pelletary doesn't deal with any of that stuff, so that's why it's through the federal and state locations only. In section 381-12, the fees and citations, we don't change that. Those are outlined in the general penalty portion of the code. And that's established by city council. So these are basically the more noticeable changes of the proposed document. Attorney Cole and his staff reviewed the draft I submitted. Everything that they requested to be updated is included in this here. So it is approved by the attorney. Open it up to any questions that you may have.
I noticed in the detail of the actual proposal that you're not supposed to put your containers out before 5 p.m. the day before. And I'm curious as to whether we've ever cited anybody for putting it out early.
We've never done citations. It's mainly for a uniformity purpose. Similar to what we do for brush. You kind of want to avoid having carts show up too soon, but people go on vacation.
Right.
People go away for the weekend.
Right.
We've never received any complaints.
Good.
And it's something that you want to have in here. But it's never been an issue. So.
I would say too, that one of the things that Dan pointed out in the city council meeting is that Pelletary has cameras on their trucks. So they can actually see if people are disposing of things they shouldn't be disposing of. In a manner that our previous, service did not. That's quite, and I would say, resources available to residents are really phenomenal because Pelletarians, if you spend time on their site, their site is, the website is phenomenal in terms of resources available to people to help explain what's okay and what's not okay. But I know the sustainability committee has already said, they could help get the word out. I mean, again, not that we're gonna be slapping anybody with citations, but if the trucks do find the residents regularly pitching paint cans or regularly, pitching brush or whatever, they could, it could be a problem. So with this new ordinance.
And those cameras have come in handy already and it helped. There was a certain resident blaming Pelletary staff for doing something and the video cameras, we had video proof that it wasn't Pelletary that was doing it. It was actually the property owner that was causing the issue. And then the property owner scolded at me for actually investigating it and saying, hey, you were wrong. But that's when the camera system comes in handy. It's been nice. The complaints, we've had some complaints, but they're also complaints that Pelletary has followed up on immediately within 24 hours, and that's what's actually in the contract. If they've missed something due to lateness in collection, they are back there the next business day, and they do work on Saturdays. And every complaint that we put back to them, they've answered 100%. Me as staff and the front desk, it's a 100% change from previously, so it's going well for us.
One of the things I'm not sure everybody, all citizens realize, that if you go to Clean Sweep, you pay a fixed fee, it's either 10 or 20, I forget it, for no matter how much you have in your car.
Yep.
And so people ought to realize if they're gonna go to Clean Sweep, I go to all my neighbors.
Right.
And say, I'm going,
Take it in.
take it in, says it's the same price. That would help a lot on things that should not be going into garbage recycling.
It's a really good idea, and I'll make sure to relay that to the sustainability committee, so that if they do decide to do some PSAs or other announcements around.
Go on a clean sweep, ask your neighbors.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because if not, you just hoard it in your garage.
That's right. Or sometimes people may try to put it in the garbage.
Any other questions? I think the other big one that came up has to do with the 6:30 or 7. So if there's, I know that came up as a question from the first read at council. So if there's any opinion by this group or no opinion, that's fine either. We can just leave it to council to decide, but that's one of the pieces that came up of 6:30 only by the school and for
The rest of the same.
community or
Private business.
private businesses and 7 for everybody else, or 6:30 across the board.
Spell Terry, have an opinion on it today.
So,
Terry.
4:00 in the morning, that'd be every business dream.
I mean, it's in the contract right now at 7 o'clock and, you know, they're good with that because they probably hit the school areas first and then they get the rest of the city.
And then they come directly
Council
to my
has an
house, I
opinion.
swear.
Yeah,
But 7 o'clock, isn't that part of the city's noise ordinance as well?
For construction.
that, if you look at the language regarding the 55 or whatever decibel, we've been through this. It does not apply to garbage collection. It mainly applies to construction and amplified devices, and things like that. And that's from 9 PM to 7 AM. But right now, there's currently no code for when they can start garbage collection. So we're trying to establish that.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I mentioned that to city council, if they want to entertain it, and to you folks, if you want to entertain it, but, you know, Pelletari's used to 7 o'clock. If you want to go a half hour earlier to make it 6:30 citywide for all areas, you can give that recommendation to city council. To me, it doesn't matter, but it's up to you all.
I'm a fan of 7.
Yeah. See the point changing if it's working.
So just leave it as written.
And the advantage of this is at least setting the 6:30 bar for the commercial, private individuals that right now don't have a
Right.
set time. They can come as early as they want to right now.
There was a recent complaint, I think it was 4 o'clock, that we were notified. A few weeks ago, but we couldn't do anything about it because it's authorized. But we can change that.
All right. So that's a-
I would recommend approval to the city council to pass the ordinance.
All right, so second,
Second.
any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item D, which is discussion and consideration of adopting a recycling compliance assurance plan.
Thank you. So this kind of goes hand in hand with what we just talked about. Again, this is a DNR template. And the language that we have written in ours is based off pretty much the same language that Cottage Grove and McFarland have. And there are not a whole lot of other compliance assurance plans out there on the web for communities, but the ones I have, they follow the same format. So I wrote this based off the state template. And we actually, we did have this in place since I arrived in 2011. It's just never been formally adopted. And we actually had to use it, I think, 3 years ago at one of the larger apartment complexes where they offered recycling and then they completely took it away. And we heard through the grapevine that they were encouraging the residents to throw everything in solid waste, which is a major violation of state statutes. So working with the DNR, we did make contact with them and we turned the screws pretty tight right from the start because it was a large complex. And they secured the contract for private collection, they provided proof. I turned it into the DNR and, you know, we followed the plan and everything's good. But I've only had to use it one time in 13 years. So it's appearing now because the DNR wants it formally adopted by city officials. So it provides a strategy for 3 types of scenarios, 3 types of problems. Any property in the city found to have no methods for recycling in place. Recyclables found in the trash and trash found in recyclables. The nice thing with at least the residential program, as I said, these trucks now have cameras. They're able to record these things. And the Pelletary drivers do help their communities. If they see something, they tag and then they say something. And in the past, with previous collectors, they have notified us. Waste Management had video cameras on their receiving body. A little too late, because by that time it's ready in the truck. So we on occasion receive word from Waste Management, but I think Pelletary does it a little differently, which will make it easier to help enforce the compliance assurance plan. So we're seeking your recommendation to pass this resolution to have staff follow this one, for when we know people are I guess violating city ordinance and state statutes when it comes to solid waste and recycling.
Move approval.
Second. Second. All right, any further discussion? Hearing that, all those in favor say aye. Opposed?
A quick question, do they use AI to just like see things that are non-compliant and it then triggers them to?
I honestly don't know,
Okay,
but
I can't believe a human is,
Yeah.
looking at the video.
yeah, I'm not really sure how they do that, but they do have 360 cameras around their collection trucks.
I would be surprised.
And they have the ability to, I mean, if the lid is open, they have the ability to see in somehow. I don't know if the cameras are mounted up. But from what Pelletary has said is that they have tagged carts before. They put it back down and tagged them. So that's,
Probably when it's obvious materials.
Yeah. yeah.
Yeah, TV slide.
Not that one sour cream container you threw away. last week.
Yeah,
Didn't rinse it out.
Yeah.
yeah, so,
Okay, yeah, I'm just curious.
yeah.
Yeah.
They'd be more than happy to show it all off if you
Yeah.
go tour their facility. That's
We
pretty impressive.
use them for job site containers, and they're phenomenal, but
Yeah.
For customer service, but
Dan did say they like to give tours because they do have state of the art facilities, so if anybody really is interested, it's pretty, I mean, they have video of their facility on tape.
Sounds like a field trip.
Yeah, right. I guess what I like about Pelletary is we deal directly with the owner. The owner comes to our city council meetings.
right.
They show up, they personally answer the questions. They have their main headquarters right here in Manila. And it's different than a Fortune 500 company where they're all over the United States. Pelletary, they have 45 municipalities and how many ever commercial accounts, but they take it personally. And they show up and they answer the questions. So I like that.
I got a question for you then. And a neighbor who was an elderly couple. And they had put out the recycling. And there was construction going on next door. And somebody parked in front of it.
They will come back and pick it up as long as they're made aware
Well,
of it.
they called Pelletary and they said, oh yeah, we'll come and get it, but it'll be a $35 charge. And the truck had gone down that way, and I said, so I told them, I just happened to be walking by at the time. And I said, well, why don't you just take it across the street? And they were like, oh my God, no. You know, they didn't know they could do that. And so I, okay, you guys figure it out. Actually, I asked them to call you. You're welcome. And
I remember this one.
yeah, and but they could have taken it across the street. I know that's the way it was with Waste Management and all the other previous people that we had. But so that's still an okay thing to do.
If they do that, see, no, I thought I heard, because I think they called us and then we spoke to both of them. They did that and Pelletary wouldn't pick it up. Because they have a computer-based program in their,
Shows too many things.
it shows too many carts at the hub. But they did come back and pick it up. They reviewed the camera and in fact, yes, there was vehicles parked in front of it. Stephanie Court, something similar that same day. And they came back and picked both, actually, my crew picked up. But they came back and picked up Stephanie because construction is part of there too.
Gotcha.
But people have to remember that we get ours collected on a Friday. So the complaint pickup will happen on a Monday at the end of the day because they have contracts during the day that they have to fulfill. So we had the group on Stephanie kind of get excited with us because they hadn't showed up yet, and we explained to them, you have to wait for Pelletier to finish their other contracts for today before they'll show up. And they did show up as they told the resident they would later in the day. But those are just things you gotta work through, but at least now they have the video on the truck to say, yes, you were blocked, we're gonna come back and get you. Whereas previously, then you had to debate that, you know, with waste management.
And you have multiple carts as well? Or is it one cart per household?
Through the city's program, you get one each. Any resident can contract for an additional cart with Pelletier Direct.
Okay,
So if a resident has 10 people in the house and they need 3 solid waste carts, they can have more at the curb.
gotcha.
It ruins my other idea of instead of half the city recycling, have half the addresses, so you can go across the street. It wouldn't work because there's damn computers.
Those damn computers.
Yeah, otherwise it was like,
That code
hey,
machine.
here's our problem solved. We'll have to come up with another new bright idea that doesn't work. All right, we'll go on to item E, which is discussion and consideration of capital budget amendment for the 2024 sanitary sewer lift station reconstruction project.
So these next two kind of go hand in hand, and we have to do the capital budget amendment first. Hopefully receiving your recommended approval, because we need the money to approve the bid award. So we can't approve the bid award first, because we would have money to do that. So I'm seeking the Public Works Committee approval. We did the bid for the lift station improvements. It's the Midmore pumping station and the Winnequa Road pumping station. We have 1.25 million in the budget. The bid came in at 1 point. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Dedicated cost associated with the project is $1,298,823. And we exceed our budget total by $48,823. I'm seeking a capital budget amendment of $95,000 using existing fund balances. Pulling the sanitary sewer design money from an idle project, the 20 Watha Trail design project. And remaining balances from the sanitary sewer lining project that we closed out last year. The money that we're pulling from the 20 Watha Trail design, we're gonna be putting that back in with this upcoming capital budget request. The reason why we're pulling it is because the mayor took that out of the 24 capital budget. I'm not sure. I am gonna put it back into 25. It'll come here first and go to council. But I've heard word that the mayor is gonna be supporting it for 2025. In any case, like I said, we'll have that money included back in 2025. So the amended capital budget for this project would then be $1,345,000. Dedicated project cost of $1,298,823. And that leaves $46,177 for contingency. And if you look on the fiscal note on the next page, that's about a 3.5% contingency, which is low. Because this project carries into 2025, I am planning to add a line item in the sanitary sewer budget for about another 45,000, 50,000 for contingency to finish this project if needed. It may not get spent, but it might get spent. We just don't know that, but typically we as staff, we like to have about a 7 to 10% contingency. Engineers like a 15%. But if they design things right and we do our studies and research correctly, we shouldn't have to use up to 15%. I mean, we've rarely had to do a change order where we actually pay more. But the goal is if we have to pay more, we want that money in the budget. I don't want to have to come back later and do another capital budget amendment. So this year particular resolution, I'm seeking your approval to add 95,000 to the capital budget that we already have of 1.25 million. And that would cover the cost of the bid, all the other associated costs related to this project, and give us a little bit of money for contingency.
Is there a motion?
Move approval.
A second?
Second.
All right, any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, item F is the special consideration of bid award for the contract for the Point Lake Railroad Station reconstruction project.
Now we get to this. Okay, we did receive bids from 3 contractors on April 27th last week. August Winter and Sons, they're a big contractor, reputable contractor. I know where I was previously at up in the Green Bay area. They're a big player up there and they do work down here as well. Seeking the bid award for bid B plus allowance in the amount of $835,000. So the allowance covers, as listed in the bid tab here, a very small bid tab. It covers the electrical utility allowance in the bid. So we are going with the bid B, which extends the time frame of the project into 2025. We wrote 2 schedules in there. The shorter schedule, we sort of had an indication that was going to be a more expensive bid. If we spread it out, it would, we would have a less expensive bid, and that's how it did turn out. So we are seeking the approval of the $835,000 bid that would take us to July 31st. Substantial completion would be by May 31st and final completion by July 31st. We've already heard word from the contractor that they see the great majority of the work getting done here in 2024. So we're talking, in essence, punch list items potentially carrying into 2025, which is common. Instead of cutting pages out of the bid manual to kind of give you a scope of what this project entails, I just put a copy of the bid ad in this packet for you to review of what's being done at Midmore Lift Station and then Winnebago Road Lift Stations. In essence, both of those brick buildings and the pump pits inside are going to be demolished and taken out. We're going to be putting in modern lift stations like you see at the Tony Watha Boat Landing, down on Kathy Thomas Circle. The metal cabinet with submersible pumps underground eliminates the need for the majority of confined space entry because you can retrieve the pumps from on top. The only time that you would have to go down in the hole for something very abnormal. We rarely perform confined space entries on these types of lift stations, so that's a big plus for us. Generators that are currently at both locations would be hooked up, so we still have standby power at both locations. It's going to be a modern appearance, similar to what you see out there at those other locations. So, yeah. Any questions for this? Excuse me?
Well, Alders have been invited to hop in our police cars or hop in the fire trucks, and I just wondered if Alders get a chance to be in the lift station.
Be in the lift station. If you want to suit up and harness up, we can show you what that well looks like. All the pumps, interesting stuff.
Both projects happening at the same time.
I do not know that. We try to avoid writing those kind of requirements in because we don't want to limit the contractor.
Does it have any impact on transfer of sanitary?
No, what these lift stations are probably more than a mile apart, mile and a half apart. Um, At both locations, we are replacing the force main. They won't be doing the force mains at the same time. The goal is to get one done and then go to the other and get it done. But based on the pre-bid meeting that we had, August Winters was there. And their goal is to move as fast as they can. LW Allen is due to have all of the equipment by August first. And they want to have as much work done prior to August first as they can, and then when they get the equipment from LW Allen, they want to get right into that, so. I want to say probably some of the work is going to be done at the same time, but the more critical work, they're probably going to focus on one station, get it done there, and then move to the other. On Winnequa Road, there will be the northbound lane will most likely be shut down, and I gave them the heads up, hey, the mayor's house is right across the street. So please be nice. But I'm assuming her husband will probably be out there with a lawn chair and watching them and stuff like that, but so they're well aware, they've got to have a detour plan and traffic control plan, but like I said, August Winters, this is not their first rodeo. They have a lot of these and ours is considered small. They build wastewater treatment plants, pumping stations, things like that, so it should be pretty seamless here for what we have going.
Where did you say that there are existing pumping stations?
The 20 watt boat landing next to Judge Steckman's house.
Okay,
So that like that control panel and that surface,
okay.
that's in essence what we'll have at both of these
Gotcha.
locations.
I guess I'm just thinking back to when we put the generators on, that whole to-do about how ugly they were, and we ended up spending $25,000 putting plants in front of them and stuff like that. Will they be aesthetically fit into the neighborhood? Are we gonna hear
Oh.
about that type of thing?
If you go look at those control panels, that's about what we're getting.
Okay,
We've never heard any complaints about them.
Mhm.
We're talking probably about the size of that TV turn. So you take away the big brick building and you're gonna have a stainless steel control panel right there.
good.
That houses the electronics and stuff, the pumps and the pumps are below ground. You have a control panel and then a above ground vault system that we can enter to maintain the check valves.
Okay.
And that also eliminates the need for confined space, so. I would say if anything, it's gonna be more pleasing to the eye than what we currently have, so
No more brick building.
it'll be on.
One more piece of our history.
Yeah, don't get them started. All right,
If you want the bricks, I'm sure we can bring it.
all right, is there a motion?
No motion.
Is there a second?
Second,
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed? All right, and Dan, any highlights from the operations report or any questions that people?
The only thing I'd like to highlight is if you flip to the back, something new. I don't know if this came from the mayor, through Neil, but he was asking department heads to come up with measurables. He was getting on this the last quarter of 2023, so what we did in Public Works, between myself, Brad, who's our GIS stormwater specialist, and our construction program manager, our deputy director, Jeff, who oversees the operation and maintenance of our streets and utilities division, and Jared, who's our utility foreman. Sean, who manages the right-of-way permit program, we put this spreadsheet together, kind of a clearinghouse of information, and I think I will probably present this after the completion of each quarter, just because some of the data is based quarterly and some of it's monthly, but it gives you a snapshot of what we do and when we do it. Street sweepings, outfalls, solid waste collection, brush. So this is, I guess this is our way of showing you all and city council and the mayor kind of what we do. But there's a lot of human effort behind all this, behind these numbers, but. So you'll see this, at least 4 times a year. I might just include it monthly as we fill in the monthly information. That's very easy to do because it's on our calendar to update on the first of every month, so.
So this is, could be interesting information. It would be interesting to know who asked for it because it's got some purpose. But just as it is, it's much less meaningful than if it were to be compared to trends or something. In other words, the important thing is trends. Is it going up? Is it going down? So you might want to consider at some point adding a column that says average for the last 12 months. Now you look at a quarter or the average of the last 3 quarters. Now you look at the quarter, you say, that we're putting more effort in this area than we used to, or less areas. So think about some reference to past, again, that goes back to what's the objective of it, but.
Right. Well, he was looking for measurables. Some of this is based on the time of year, so certain times of the year we'll have data, other times we won't, so trends may not apply based on when, but I mean, this is the first go at it, so we're only building from here. This is the base.
So interesting, you have 23 lane miles in February. I mean, that's gonna be an anomaly. I mean, we had a pretty
Oh,
warm
yeah,
February.
yeah, we had good weather then. So, you know, we went out
Not to
and
mention next
got winter debris, you know, before it hit the inlets.
Which is, it's great.
We've never swept in February before. This is the first time that our crew can remember sweeping in February. Yeah.
So I really like this. This is almost something that could be in the city newsletter too. What is the Public Works Department doing? Boom.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, so. Kinda,
So I just wanna go back to what you said though about the kind of resources that you're willing to do this. Like, I think it's great and I'm all for data, you know, huge data fan. But is this chewing up a lot of staff time? to be able to
No.
do this? No, you're already collecting this anyway, you just didn't have to chart.
basically, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Alright, great.
You know, Jeff, he records a lot of the street operation stuff here, he already records.
okay,
So we
Fantastic.
just brought it into one location for all of us. The only person that, you know, Sean, who manages our right of way from it, you know, he captures all this data, but my guess is he never, on his end, totaled up the revenue received.
Yeah.
Hotaker totals that up based on the money that comes in.
right,
But it's good for Sean to have these totals in front of him too, so he can see what he does. And like, you know, for the quarter, 194 diggers hotline locates. I mean, that shows what Sean is doing. Right of way inspections completed in the first quarter, 62. But now, over the next few months through October, these numbers are gonna skyrocket because of the
Right.
construction season. That revenue is gonna jump. So, you know, as far as the utility, we record all this information, but for Jeremy to look at this every month, it might trigger something, oh yeah, I need to go do that, or I need to, you know, get back out to, we have HydroCorp still inspecting our commercial places for cross connections. We have to do the follow-up, so it might trigger something in his memory to follow up with HydroCorp for something, but I think, having this clearinghouse of data will probably make us even more efficient as we fill this out.
Yeah.
So,
just wanna make sure it
Yeah.
wasn't showing up a ton of stuff.
no.
I have a question and maybe a request. You have the loads of leaves collected. Do you weigh the vehicles could you convert loads to pounds?
No, we base it off the cubic yard. The boxes are 25 cubic yard capacity, and when we dump them, it's at Purple County, it's just a dump in the yard.
You can estimate that some way. The reason I ask because you can directly translate that pounds of leaves to pounds of phosphorus. That might be something both the county and the state.
I think through the state recycling, Mark Hotaker fills out our recycling grant and he turns in our annual data. They might have a conversion factor for cubic yards to tons of these. And it is strictly, there's some yard waste mixed in there. Not much when it comes to the leaf collection program. So I would say probably 95% is for sure all leaves.
And even if you maybe weigh it 1 or 2 times and then just assume everything
Yeah.
else is gonna be roughly the same.
Yeah, and I think we'd be able to go out to the landfill and do, or even Pelletary, for customer, we could go take a weight.
Wouldn't that weight depend a fair amount on whether they're wet or dry?
Yeah, it would, but we have a vacuum collection system, so you don't apply water like a street cleaner does. So I would assume that that's what you're referring to when you meant load, right, is the vacuum melting system. So it should be dry.
Before it's at work.
I mean, we are out there collecting leaves. I mean, the nice thing about our trucks is there could be 2 to 3 inches of snow on the leaves and we'd still be able to pick it. But those would be wet. They go through a mulcher and impeller. I don't know how much moisture is removed as it gets chunked up and it probably still, if we could do a dry load and a wet load, I mean, it'd be easy to do. So,
And then, and I'm just trying to think ahead, if you want pounds of leaf, it doesn't mean much, but if you say pounds of phosphorus, say, right, from getting it done.
yeah,
But no, that might be interesting.
let Brad work on that one. Yeah, he likes diving into the stormwater stuff.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, yeah, so we'll keep this going and if you have anything that kind of triggers you and says, hey, do we collect data on this? Just let me know and. Otherwise, that's all I have for this.
Right, any questions from committee members? Seeing none, our next scheduled meeting is June 5th. Get close to budget season.
Yeah, and we usually have a June meeting, so it's the July one that. we
July, you can
have.
probably cancel.
We haven't had a July meeting yet. Since I've been here. I try to avoid putting anything on the calendar for July.
Awesome. And then the motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Awesome, thank you.
Question for you. Yeah, I understand what you're putting the base in.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Well, under the